I welcome all in Nmr lecture series. In some previous lectures, we have studied about the signal splitting about coupling. This lecture is also closely related to the previous one, how we can draw a tree diagram in Nmr spectroscopy. This coupling tree diagram helps us to predict the splitting pattern for a signal. It also helps in signal assignment in complex spectra. So, how we can draw a tree diagram and how we can draw the doublet of a doublet. Let's start with this example. We are observing HA proton signal for HA proton in Nmr spectroscopy. As you see, it has a 2 proton in its neighbor. According to N+1 rule, it has a 2 proton in its neighbor, so its signal must split into the triplet. But when we observe the spectra, we see its signal split into the doublet of doublet. How this will happen? As you see, it has a 2 neighbor protons and both of these protons are non-equivalent with each other. So firstly, HA will couple with HB proton and its signal will split into the doublet. Then HA will again couple to this HC proton and these both lines will again split into the doublet. So we will observe doublet of doublet in Nmr spectroscopy. Spectra. Okay. How we can draw the triplet of doublet? Similar way, we are observing a signal for this HA proton. It has 3 neighboring proton, HB and HC proton. According to N+1 rule, it has 3 neighboring proton. Its signal must split into the quadret. But when we observe Nmr spectra, we see a signal for HA proton was again triplet. How this will come? As we see, these both HC protons are equivalent with each other. Firstly, HA will couple with HB proton. Its signal will split into the doublet. Then again, HA will couple with both these HC protons. These both lines will split into again doublet. As these both protons are equivalent with each other, so these lines will merge with each other and we see a single line. So that's why the intensity of this triplet is increases and we see the triplet in Nmr spectra. In a similar way, we can draw a signal for a quartet of doublet, triplet of doublet, quartet of quartet, a quartet of doublet, like that. So this splitting is basically depend upon the coupling constant, and the proton which have larger coupling constant will draw first. See, as we see that HB has a larger coupling constant, so HA will couple firstly with HB and then with HC. So that's all about today.